Hi, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Seth, and this is The Forever Young Show. The most powerful force in this world is a woman who knows who she is, why she is here, and what she wants to accomplish.
And that's where self-care comes in. As a woman, it is my opportunity and my responsibility to take care of me.
Self-care for your mind.
Self-care for your body.
Self-care for your money.
Our mission is to serve women as they fulfill their irreplaceable roles in families, society, business, the fabric of humanity.
So let's get this show on the road. Here we are, another episode of The Forever Young Show. And Steph, we're a number of interviews into this. This has really been something we've been working on for a year or more. What's your thought about getting vulnerable on this session? This is a solo session. We don't have a guest here with us. It's just you and me, babe, in the studio. What do you think about getting vulnerable?
Let's do it.
You know, when we're vulnerable, and you've taught me this, by the way, getting vulnerable can actually be one of the most healing things in your life if you're with
The right people.
the right people.
Absolutely.
You call it a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
I think we want to make this community, the show, a safe place for people, even though maybe we're not hearing what you're saying on the other side, right? For those of you who are listening or watching, but we hope that you feel part of this community and safe place. And I know this lady is a safe place.
Oh, he is definitely a safe place. One of my rocks.
Thank you, babe.
You're welcome.
So I want to explore, a couple of things that we've been doing lately and maybe how this podcast got started now that, we're a number of interviews. If you're listening, if you've been with us from the beginning, thank you so much. We want to hear from you. Please give us feedback. Come talk to us, right? This is community.
Like one of our children likes to do whenever she likes something, it's really good. 2 thumbs up means it's like out of this world, really good.
That's true. Let's take you maybe behind the scenes of this podcast. What was your thought, Steph, when I said, I think we should do a podcast? Like, what did I say to you? Do you remember?
Just now?
Yes, short-term memory game. What did I just say just now when we talked last year about doing a podcast?
Honestly, I don't remember a lot. I think probably because I was like, you want me to do a podcast? Like, I love helping people. I love a mutual exchange, ideas and connection and just helping each other, right? However, this is definitely not something within my comfort zone yet. And so for me, it was like, okay, this is his idea. I guess, I like to be a submissive wife, I guess you could say. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it. But I like to do things that you like or that will bring you joy. And so I'm willing to go out of my comfort zone to do things that make you happy, in a healthy way.
I was just going to say in a healthy way.
Yeah.
There could be a lot of misunderstanding about that word submissive. I have a feeling, boom, we just hit it. Like, dang,
We're good.
We hit the key on the piano. And I think we're going to have a bunch of comments about that word that you used, submissive. I thought you were going to say supportive.
Well, I think there can be a healthy submission in any relationship. I don't know. That's just my take on it. I've been in a unhealthy marriage before, and I know what it's like to be doing unhealthy submission. I have grown and become a better person, and I feel like I'm healthier, and I know where my boundaries are, and I'm willing to, uphold them. And so I'm comfortable saying that because I know who I am. And I'm comfortable with that. I know what's healthy and what's not for me.
I appreciate that clarification because I know where it comes from, and I know you, and as our community knows us better, and as we get to know you better, our friends, our besties, our listeners, but way beyond just listening. We appreciate you being here because we know this show is all about sharing. So
Can't do a show without its listeners.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I know how healthy you are, and emotionally healthy and spiritually healthy and mature. So when I hear that submit, I'm cool with that because because listen, I know what's behind that too. Like I know the woman behind that, and that does not mean yeah, sure, I'm going to do whatever you want.
Nope. Sure doesn't.
Because the sweet and sassy is going to definitely tell me where I stand too. So I appreciate that.
Heavy on the sassy side.
That's right. That's right. It's kind of like when we go to one of our favorite restaurants, this little Tex-Mex place here in Utah. Well, actually, not just in Utah, all over the West here, Cafe Rio. And you want extra protein. What do they say? Extra meat. Like you have got the extra sass going on there.
Only when I
Daily.
need it, baby.
That's right. That's right. So talking about, you wanted to be supportive, right? Why did you feel like this maybe out of your comfort zone?
I don't know. I possibly because it's a new level of vulnerability for me. I'm actually really good at being vulnerable with people, but I feel like this is a whole new level of vulnerability, which therefore also opens myself up to more criticism. That can be really difficult to take, or yeah, to take criticism, to have it thrown at you, not necessarily that I'm going to internalize it. Yeah, that's a big deal.
How are you going to deal with the criticism for this show?
I'm going to laugh it off. The more that I know who I am, the more I reflect on who I want to be, I can take healthy criticism, internalize those things that I really need to, and the other things I can just let go and laugh it off.
We're going to do a lot of laughing on this show. What did we say last episode with Tiffany? If you don't laugh and you don't cry on this show, then we didn't do our job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I will tell you, like being a little vulnerable, because I've been thinking about this show this past week as we're preparing for launch, and we've been in the studio. And goodness, we talked about this a year ago, and then 6 months later, we finally got into the studio. Right? That was one of your. I don't know. Did we talk about this on that episode on the first episode with
We
with
might
your
have brought it
interview?
up.
We talked about your 40 by 40. Did we talk about that?
I don't remember.
One of your 40 by 40, right, was to actually start recording the podcast, right? So we were in the studio like 2 weeks before your.
No, no. We, I mean, a part of me was like, I really don't want to do the podcast, but I could catch your vision on what we could do for other people. And so that became a part of a big reason why I wanted to do it, was because I feel like we have something to offer. And why not share it? And those that are ready for it, or want to gain something from it, they can. And I've been in the other role many times in my life, and I know how much one conversation or one podcast or something can really influence me for the rest of my life. And so I'm like, you know what? If I have something to offer, if we have something to offer together, why not step out of my comfort zone? And like some people like to say, put my big girl panties on and grow. Seth decided, hey, I'm going to help you get your 40 by 40 done. And let's do the podcast the day before your 40th birthday or something like that. It was like very 11th hour is what it was.
But we did it.
We did. And I put it on my list because I'm like, okay, that's a good one. Because the purpose of my list was to help me to be vulnerable and to come out of my comfort zone and to grow in a lot of areas that I are honestly untapped. And so I was like, you know what, that is one. And I can record one, I can record 5 or 10, and I can say, you know what, this just is not for me. And so that's kind of where I started with that.
And here we are 6 months later. We are preparing to release the show. We've been in the studio, professional studios. We've recorded
Offices,
in offices and
hotel room.
hotel rooms. That's true. Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
right? Bangkok. We're here doing in our virtual office here in our home doing virtual podcasts. and we're about to launch on International Women's Day. That was your idea. What was, obviously you're listening to this today. It's, this is past launch, but I wanted you to have an idea about why did we want to launch on International Women's Day?
Well, that's the sassy side coming at me. I mean, we're doing this to help women, to inspire that one woman, to connect with that one woman. And so, what better day than International Women's Day? Like, woo, let's do this.
Love it. You've been a little vulnerable. I think for me, I grew up, I think, really needing affirmation from others. I was a small kid. I was a late bloomer. I think you can probably understand. You can relate to that. You were if you were a late bloomer, I was like extremely late. Like I barely made. Like they were closing the door for blooming, and I ran in right before.
Slid right in.
I slid right in. Yeah. I mean, I remember being an 18-year-old kid, and people thinking I was 12 years old. Literally 17. My senior picture in my high school yearbook. Have you seen that picture, right?
Yes, I have.
You've seen that. And number one, to my credit, I am the only kid with a bow tie on. Okay. By the way, a real bow tie. There's no clip-on thing. Actually, I take it back. I think it was a latch on. Okay.
Maybe back then it was. Yeah. Maybe back then.
And I got
the real
this
deal now.
Big old teeth grin, baby face, baby freckle face.
Oh yeah.
And literally, you could have put my senior picture in the freshman
at least
section in the sixth grade, right?
That's probably more accurate.
And so having grown up being smaller than all the other boys, pardon me, girls, right? Like I was one of the small kids. I felt like I didn't have small man syndrome from like tough guy, but definitely hey, am I here? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Do I have value? Am I worthy? Am I enough? I mean, I've come a long way. And at the same time, I think that sometimes those, call them demons, call them opportunities, call them my journey, still, I don't want to say you never get rid of it, but you grow, but sometimes it kind of comes back.
Sometimes they ring in your ear a little.
Yeah. So I've honestly wondered, I mean, I totally feel like this is a great idea. So if you've got a great idea, ladies, get it started, get it moving. I feel like this is a great idea. Honestly, and I've been really thinking about this lately, this past week, was this inspired? Right?
Honestly, it could be, whether it's for someone or someone's out there, or even just for us. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm growing through it. So,
well, I think it's a great idea, but I also think it's inspired. I think it's inspired because this is an avenue that you and I both love. We have a heart to serve and bless and work with and get into the nitty gritty, of life, vulnerable and happy and strong, of women around the world. That's our business. I mean, that's what you and I do. In the main world is in the main world in as our mainline business, in the entrepreneurial field and the health and wellness field. That's where, from a ministry standpoint, you're Africa. But I think I have that that concern is like, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Do I belong here? Doing this, who's good? Like, is anybody even really going to care? Are we going to do any good?
I can tell you yes. I know that, we've reached out to personal friends and family, and a lot of them are really excited and have expressed how excited they are, and they're anticipating the launch day. So we're doing good.
And if nobody listens, we're still going to do this just so I can hang out in this studio with you, hot mama. No, I'm serious because I've fallen in love with this new, I'll say a new approach, right, to serving women, outside of business. Well, because business is all about self care, honestly, anyway,
Mhm.
and what we do with mind and body and money in the business world translates right here. And that's why we talk about self care, mind, body, and money.
Well, even just like Tiffany talked about, how being a stay-at-home mom or whatnot, and then going back into the work field, you have life experiences that help bring you back into that make you adequate for the job. And I think the same thing can apply to taking those experiences and the I don't know, the learning that you do through like your careers or your jobs or whatnot, and then bringing those skill sets back home too. I think they transfer both ways.
By the way, that was a reference to Tiffany Larson, good friend of Stephanie's, and CEO of Days for Girls. If you've not checked out that episode, go check it out. It was amazing.
Yes, yes, definitely changed me for the better.
So, talk a little about our vulnerability in getting the show started. Now we've got some interviews, under our belt, and just some experiences. What have you liked most about what we've been doing so far?
I think there's a few things. One that I've already talked about is feeling myself blossom and finding that I'm looking forward to doing these podcasts more. Not saying that I don't get a little nervous or whatnot, especially when I'm a little more prepared on some than others. Uh,
Welcome to the multitasking life of mom and minister and wife.
I feel myself progressing, and I really love that feeling. I love it. I've had a lot of opportunities in my life to choose to lean in to growth. And it does take a big amount of courage, vulnerability, come to not necessarily be addicted to it, because obviously I'm not out there doing it all the time. But when the opportunities come, I go for them. I lean in because I know what it feels like to come out the other side somebody better. So I think that's one thing that I really have enjoyed in this process thus far. I think it's really taken a lot of trust in you and in God's inspiration, and also in myself, coming to trust myself more and to know that I can do this. I may fumble along the way, but isn't that life? That's life. But it doesn't mean that really great things aren't going to come from those stumbles. It's part of the process.
It is absolutely part of the process. You talk about getting nervous, right? And I mean, I remember that interview with Tiffany. It wasn't too long ago. Uh, that I mean, we have so much going on right now. That's another reason why we're doing this podcast. We've got 4 kids at home and 6 grandchildren on the way, and we're traveling around to see our grandkids and dates with our kids and work in their church and the ministry
And dates with you and me, baby.
and dates with you and me. We got a date tonight, right?
Yeah,
Hey, want to go out tonight?
of course.
All right. And of course, building our business as entrepreneurs, like let's fit in a podcast and produce episodes every week and travel around. We've got podcast, traveling podcast interviews, and we've got I don't know. It seems like we've got 5 interviews, I think, in the 5 podcasts scheduled in the next 2 weeks.
Wait, I do?
Oh, by the way, when you were talking about that trust thing,
Yeah.
uh, and so coming into maybe an interview, not feeling as prepared as we would like, we're working on that, right?
Hmm.
You talked after the interview, said, "Man, I just felt I was sweating a little and just kind of running on the fly." I will tell you, I was watching you on the screen, I was looking at you, and I'm thinking, this girl is made for this. You were awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, there were some times where I'm like, okay, that was a good conversation, or I mean, holy cow, she just poured into me. Just, I don't know. That's, you know, I don't know. I'm just on this happy high, I guess, of just seeing the different impacts that we can make in the world and how it can start so small and it can grow to become something so much more. Um, and we have no idea what we're starting. start that one little thing, but God does. He knows. Thank heavens. Because sometimes, I feel like I know, and then I realize, holy crud, I did not know what I was doing. But he was there along the way. And yeah, it's a great feeling.
That reminds me of some content we put out recently about God's timing. And it was inspired from another account. It was talking about God's timing. Moses waited 40 years, and Rachel waited, and Sarah waited, and so kind of took that and did a little more research and wanted to pull a little more out. I think in fact, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this, and I want you to get your opinion on this, and I want to get personal. God has a plan laid out specifically for you. Sarah waited 90 years. And by the way, if you're wondering, well, what did they wait for? Go do the research, right? They all waited in a different way for a different thing. Sarah was 90, by the way, when she had her child. So there's a gimme right there. Sarah waited 90 years. David waited 15 years. Rebecca waited 22 years. Joseph waited 22 years. Rachel waited 14 years. Joshua waited 40 years. Hannah waited 19 years. If you're waiting for something big, something important, something promised, something hoped, something needed, keep waiting, right? Keep understanding God is in the details and the timing, importantly, the timing of your life. And so hang in there.
God is never late.
That's right. I told you, I think I need to rewrite that post or renew it, make another one. It's Stephanie waited.
6 years.
Okay, 6 years. I didn't know which thing. I mean, because Steph, you've probably got 10 experiences where you could say, well, I waited for this, and right?
Yeah, or I am waiting.
I was just gonna say that.
Couple of things.
It's
Yeah.
like I'm still waiting, right? It says in the scriptures, and and you wait. We will wait upon the Lord. Those who wait upon the Lord, right? So tell us a little about your wait. Like we talked about Hannah here a little, or we mentioned all these others. What were you waiting for?
My 6 year wait.
Yeah, sure. Like I'm curious. Listen, I know how the story ends.
Well, I became a single mom, and I was waiting for my companion. I had a lot of people tell me when I was going through my divorce that I was like 24 or 25. I have a hard time remembering because the divorce took over a year. So it was even that on it actually was like that was really difficult because within our church, um, we don't believe in dating while you're going through a divorce because you're still technically married. I had some friends that were still married, actually a lot, because I'd been married 6.5 years. And so a lot of my friendships were friends that were already married and still married. Then I had some friends that were single and, they wanted to go to do all the single events and do all the single things. I can see their perspectives and I don't blame either side of my friends. It was very difficult for me though, because I felt like at that time it was very taboo for a lot of people to be going through divorces. And I think it's more commonplace now. And I feel like people know how to treat it or how to handle this elephant in the room more than they did back when I was going through it.
Personally, or handling it for other people, or like being supportive.
Being supportive, like how especially because within the Christian faith, divorce is frowned upon. Even in the scriptures, it talks about how God does not condone divorce, and so sometimes people can take that. I don't even know how to.
Without any exception, right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, without knowing the couple circumstances can harshly judge them for going through a divorce, whether it was mutual or not. It was just not commonplace when I was going through it. And so while I was going through the divorce process and I was young, I had so many people comment, especially within, my church friends, that were just like, oh man, Stephanie, you're going to be snatched up so fast. I give it a year or less. Like, you would not believe how many people said that to me. They're like, you're beautiful, you're energetic, you're fun, you're young, you just have so much to give. And so you're
I
going to be
agree to all
gone.
those, by the way.
Thank you. I would hope so. And so, being young and somewhat naive at that time, I took it to heart. Like, I wanted companionship. I wanted to feel whole and but together with somebody else. And so I was hoping they were all right, and I was kind of banking on it. And that did not happen. I met you just after 5 years of being divorced. But yeah, that was a long time. And honestly, going through it felt like eons of time were passing by, and I was getting, a little bit older and all these things. I was having the time of my life at the same time. Like, let's just be real. I had some really great friends, and we loved to have fun. We loved throwing parties, and not just any parties, but clean, fun, themed parties. Like for one of my birthdays, we threw a huge Olympic party, and we had Olympic games and teams and lots of food and desserts and, photography and with all these Olympic props and, all kinds of stuff. It was absolutely incredibly fun. However, at the end of the night, sometimes it was like, oh, I just wish I had that someone that I could really cry with and bond with. And I did have that with my friends, but I knew that at a certain point in my life, I was like, I know that I need more. I need it to be leveled up a little bit. Like, I just knew that there was somebody out there for me, and I knew that at a certain point, I knew that I needed to find him in order to grow in a different way. That's when God inspired me to go to Utah. And I met you 2 months after I moved here. The rest is history, baby.
Making history. Making history. Like I always like to say, we're working on our first 1,000 years
Yes.
together. Eternity's a long time. I don't remember, I don't know how long eternity is, but let's put 1,000 years in the book, babe.
Let's do it.
From this post and this content we put out, I've had a lot of people just reach out and say, thank you so much. Had a friend from elementary school who I don't talk to a lot lately. She said, Seth, thank you for posting. I needed this today. Others saying, thanks for being, thanks for doing God's work. Cause I know you inspired him. I need this in my life right now. So I think it's how people are going to feel about the story that you shared. This idea that, man, it is hard to walk through the valley of the shadow of death because it's typically not the duration that we anticipate, we expect, that we want. I mean, we all get it. Hey, we're all going to have to be tried. We're all going to have to, be tested.
But I think if we knew how we were going to be tested and what was going to happen, we could prepare for it and it wouldn't be as difficult. And there's growth in difficult things. There's a process and a plan, and that's part of that. So it's as hard as it is, it's a perfect plan.
Not just enduring, but enduring well, right? And that's what your story reminds me of. Hey, like it's tough to go home. I can imagine you because you are a party girl, right? Like,
It's like, oh, I'm tired. And then my friend calls me and says, you want to go dancing? This literally happened. I was so exhausted. I was working, I was a single mom, and it was like around the time that she wanted to go. And she's just, I would typically go weekly. And this one night I was like, I am exhausted and I don't know that I can go. Just like, Stephanie, you and I both know that you'll be tired, but once you get on that dance floor, you're going to be like, I am here, baby. And you will have so much energy and have an incredible time. And I paused and I was like, you're right. Okay, I'm coming. And it was so much fun.
The other day, I think we were sitting in this studio and you were tired. Something, you're tired. I'm worn out. And some sort of music came on, or there was some beat. And all of a sudden it was like, and you were doing it like only you can do it. And I was like, that's it. That's my wife.
Yeah, baby.
So God's timing is perfect. Just, and I don't want to just say just, what I'm not going to say is simply don't quit, because that's not enough.
Mm, so
Or
much more than that.
I'm not going to say simply hang in there. Yes, yes, yes to all those, but really it's like
You've
party,
got this.
party,
Enjoy the
dance.
journey.
Like, don't wait to experience every ounce of joy that you can now, even though the the promised blessings haven't all come to fruition, right?
It's that faith and hope that they are going to happen when it's right. It's time. It's hard when you think or want it to be a lot sooner. It's hard when it's like, okay, I've done this and this, and like, what else am I waiting for, God? What else do I need to learn? What else do I need to do? That can be really frustrating and hard. Just being on the other side, like, it's okay. We've got this. Things are going. Smile. You know, like for me, a lot of things, and or one thing that I like to do a lot of the time, especially when I'm going through things, is have something to look forward to. Whether it's, oh, I have a piece of chocolate that I'm going to wait to eat when my kids are in, nap time or go down for bed. So, I can just sit and enjoy it. Or whether it's, hey, you know what? I'm going dancing in 2 nights, or just anything. Oh, I have this great book to read. Something to look forward to is my personality type that really helps me to get through those hard times, or that waiting period, limbo.
Yeah, looking forward to something, and truly having a commitment, because I know you were looking for companionship.
Hmm.
You know, so was I. I mean, I was looking for my I was looking for that woman. That woman was you, but you have to have a commitment to yourself. Like, you have the commitment to yourself. Know that you are absolutely worth investing in right now, even while all hell is breaking loose. I remember,
Not just while, but especially during.
even when especially when you don't even have the answers. Like, I remember going through the divorce process, separation, and just like, when can we just, like, me, hey, let's get this, let's
Let's do it. Let's get it done.
if this is where we are, let's do it, right? Like, hey, I've got 3 bars of chocolate here, I'm eating them all, let's get it done, right? You, um,
It's so true.
that's true,
And I'm
right?
like, oh, but I want to savor
Savor
this.
it. I'm like, savoring is for when we buy it again. Let's do this now. Like, um,
Just so you know, your mom and I are the same. Like, I gave her some chocolate this
uh,
morning and I joked, because she came back up a few minutes later and said, "Are you done already? I don't have any more chocolate to give you."
she's the same as me.
No, she's the same as
Oh,
me.
as
She's
you.
like, "Stephanie, I have not gone through that bar yet. I like to savor it." I was like, oh,
I can savor too, just in my own time frame. It's short. So I remember going through this. Just, what is this ever going to end? Right? This is
oh
so
yeah,
painful. Is this ever going to end? Separation, and
definitely.
back together, and then separation, and hope, and feeling great, and yes, and problem solved, grown, done. Wait a second, we're right back here, but no, it's worse.
Yeah.
And then no, it's over, and just that, just incredible, just difficult time. And I remember saying to one of my mentors, I said, like, I came to this point where I'm done. Like, God, you can take me now, because I have learned the lesson, or I want to be done with this lesson. And have I fulfilled everything? Because I'm done. Like, take me now. Never did I think, okay, I'm going to take my life, but to cease to be here now in this planet living sounds really, really, really good. And he looked at, I just said, I think God can just take me now. I think I'm done. He looked at me, kind of laughed. He said, no, your time has not yet come. Back to the grind. But guess what? That was a long time waiting. And through that, I would never want to go through that again. I'm sure there'll be something else in our lives that will be equally or maybe perhaps more difficult. But up to that point in my life, that was number one. I would never want to go back there, but I would never give up what I experienced, who I became because of that experience. It's inseparable from the fiber of my being.
Here, here.
All right, speaking of God's timing, excited to talk
Mm,
about this. We just closed out recently first annual fundraiser for a foundation you and I are part of, a nonprofit.
Hearts and Hands for Humanity.
Right. Welcome. What do we call? What was the evening called?
An Evening in Africa
An evening in Africa
with Alex Boye.
with Alex Boye. If you've not listened to Alex Boye music, Boye, Alex Boye, gotta check this guy out. He's awesome. We've been listening to him for a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
He's lots of fun. I'll tell
and
you
it was
that.
lots of fun. So he came to a benefit dinner that we did. It was 125 a plate. Was that what it was?
Mhm.
Everything 100% to raise funds for the work that the organization is doing in Africa, and it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yes, it was so much fun. So many emotions that came, like being nervous. We knew the board, but we didn't really know many that came to support the event outside the board. So that made me a little bit nervous, doing that and then going around and introducing ourselves and, just connecting with others. And then just having a lot of fun with Alex Boy's music and how interactive he is. And then also so inspiring the people that spoke and talked about their experiences and how these young children, uh, went to Africa with their parents. And then I believe it was the second time they went and they were leaving. The youngest was, I don't even know how old
Under
she was.
10.
And she was just like, Dad, because one of the main things that they do with Hearts and Hands is they drill wells for water because in Africa, the water is not clean. And a lot of diseases spread because of that. And so this girl was just so impacted by her trip and what she saw and how blessed she is that she was like, Dad, I'm going to earn money to build a well. And her dad was like, okay. And she's like, no, Dad, I am going to earn money to build a well and help these people. And he's like, all right, honey, that's great. Let's take time to earn some money. And he was thinking, he said, about 3 or 4 years until she would earn money to build a well. And I want to say it was under 6 months that her and her sister and one of the other girls, a little bit older than them, were on the trip and they worked together, going to the neighbors and feeding their horses, or going around selling baked goods, or doing a lemonade stand, or just different odds and ends, making these funds come together. And they ended up earning close to $7,000, which is almost a full well. And so many people's hearts, including my own, were touched by this, that these young girls could, number one, see the need and then go to work, make it happen in such a short amount of time, and to provide a life saving water, something that in a lot of places, are just basic needs that are met. We just go over to the faucet and turn on the water, and it's clean. Whereas their water is, animals go and urinate in it or drink from it, or all kinds of things happen in their waters. So that was one thing that happened. The fundraiser. Another was the video that Hearts and Hands shared, just kind of taking you on a journey and uh, getting to know some, the founders, CEOs, those who have been involved for a number of years, and going and interviewing some of the African people and asking how long does it take you to get from your home to go get water? And one was like, oh, 2 hours. It was two or three. And then the other one was like, oh, 5 hours. 5 hours a day just to get water that's not clean. Whoa. And then we had a live auction, which was, I thought, a lot of fun. The paddle boards and everything, except for when Seth
You know,
decided, yeah, I think I'll put my money in on
That
that
was the
one.
funnest part for me is watching other than the fact that we know that we wanted to help and we already help and we make investments. You've been to Africa. We're planning another trip to Africa. Uh, we're going to make a difference and do something about this. But the
Yes.
funnest part for me was when they were auctioning, the dinner. Of course, it was food, right? Private chef's dinner. And I'm like, my hands like, boom, and
And I was like, what?
what? I'm like, and then and do I have another bid? We got outbid. I'm up again. I didn't even have a paddle. Didn't have a paddle with a number. And I said, what number are you? I'm number one. Just put us down as number one. We're going to get it. And we did. We got it. So
Um, and and one of those that happened was at the end of all of the live auction things. And then, we also had a lot of silent auction things around the room, beautiful paintings and all kinds of donated things from people or experiences and things that you could silent auction on during the live auction. At the very end of it, they said, oh, also there were like trips, like, hey, a trip for two to go to Africa with us. I thought that was really cool that they got a few people to go do that. And I was partly jealous because I'm like, oh, I want to go. But I'm like, it's okay. I know I'm going. I know I'm going. At the very end, they asked, okay, now who wants to donate money for a well? And we're going to start off donating enough money for a full well, which is $10,000. I kind of got a little antsy and was like looking around, like, oh my goodness, is anybody really going to do this? And one guy rose his hand. He's like, I will donate, we will donate. We'll donate enough money for a full well. And I was like, my goodness, awesome. I said, okay, anybody else? Anybody else? And then he, not many people were saying anything for just a few seconds. And so that same gentleman stood up and he said, I will donate for a full well, but I want at least one other person to say they're going to also. And just the passion that he had behind that. And I don't know, like there was just such a strong feeling of like, yes, like he gets it. He gets it. Somebody pretty close, to immediately after that, I want to say, well, maybe not. I don't know. I can't remember exactly. My emotions were all in it. So it's a little blurred, some of the details. But somebody soon after, it may have felt longer than,
that's how it is. Time goes slow when that's
yes,
happening.
yes. And somebody else, said, okay, we will donate, enough for a well too. And I just tears started flowing, knowing what they're doing, that they're catching the vision of being able to help. One well will help, I think they said at least 2,000 children because it's a community well and the adults within that community. Just knowing that, they started something. And then after that, other people started, donating partials or whatnot. And I just couldn't hold back the emotion of once you've been there, especially, and you see it and you connect with these beautiful souls and just realizing that they don't have basic needs to live healthfully really makes an impact on you. And towards the end of the night, when we got rough numbers of, well, I should go back and say, I look across the table and one of the other board members and his wife, she was in tears too. And talking to others afterwards, they were in tears. Alan and his wife, started crying. And it was so fun for me. You talk about watching me or watching others and how fun it was. It was fun for me to watch Alan and his wife Tish because, that they've have so much skin in the game of putting this together and, just so much hope and inspiration and longing to help and feeling this calling to help and wanting it to be successful. And then to see that people are giving, they're opening their hearts and they're opening their resources to give, just to see the excitement on their faces. the emotion. Alan goes over there several times a year, and he gets down on the ground with them. It is so fun to see when we go to the orphanages, some of the kids that remember him and that will run up and just like jump in his arms and give him a big hug. And some of them even call him daddy. They love
Alan is the president currently, right? The
Yes.
managing director, president for the foundation, Hearts and Hands for Humanity. His wife, Tish, serves as the secretary of the organization. She's been on the show.
Yes.
In fact, I know they're editing her interview right now, and we're going to start seeing some snippets of it come through. Can I jump in on something?
Sure.
As we wrap up this episode, something that Alan said at the dinner just truly, truly humbled me and inspired me as they were starting to get the work done, and as he made his first trips over there and encountered, here we go, talking again about God's timing. Like God inspired him, hey, you need to go help your brothers and sisters. So he gets and does, he gets dirty, gets his hands into the ground, starts doing the work, and things just aren't rolling and it's not moving and things aren't coming together like he wants them to. And I think he was in Africa and he had this thought, God, why was it so hard to get here? This voice comes to him. You had to earn the right to be here with my children. So we're going to talk more about Africa on this show. We have Connie, the founder of Hearts and Hands, who is on our schedule. Yes. And we're going to do a show with her. And telling you, at 80 years young, newlywed, right?
Yes.
She's an 80 years young newlywed. She and Ken, her husband, are just darling.
They're adorable. Having the goal of, as a board, we sat and talked and we're like, man, it would be just so great to be able to provide 5 wells. That would help, some of the other teams go back to work. So not just provide that clean water for, the thousands of people, but it would also help the teams to be able to provide for their families the basic necessities that they need. And so we were like, okay, at least 50,000 we need. And at the end of the night, we totaled it out and it was near 90,000. But they knew that we hadn't really nitty gritty, totaled the whole entire night out. And it ended up being around 100,000. Man, that night I was so excited and I was just crying. And the next morning I woke up with my heart so full and just so much gratitude for God magnifying and inspiring people to want to give, helping them catch that vision of something greater than any of us and how we can help them change their lives for generations. It's just so humbling and so beautiful to see, our humble offerings to God and how he brought it all together and made it perfect. We're going to be able to go do 10 wells and help so many.
Loaves and fishes. We don't have to do the multiplying. Just bring your loaves, however many you have. Bring 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Or bring a slice. If all you have is a slice, a crusty, I like the end of the crusty bread, especially in soup, but especially your soup. But if you have one slice, if you have one loaf, if you have a half of a fish, whatever it is, bring your loaves, bring your fishes, and magnify it. Go to work, do the deal, trust in God's timing, and watch miracles happen. Watch the multiplying happen.
God's plan is perfect.
Amen. And cut. It's a wrap.
Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing this episode with that one friend who needs this conversation. Thank you for all the ratings, the reviews, the comments, and especially the support. We so appreciate you.
Now, if you want to take a peek behind the curtain and be the first to know about special previews, backstage updates here at the show, and especially some private collection content that doesn't come out in the regular show,
be sure to join our VIP community at theforeveryoungshow.com.